got that audio locked in.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Gettin Cheezy with Van and Jeezy. I'm Van.
And I'm Jeezy.
We've got ourselves a short episode this week.
Special edition. Van and Jeezy get lazy.
Van and Jeezy get busy is what it is.
That's true.
Not that way.
Oh, a word?
Van and Jeezy, Van specifically, purchasing homes, so busy.
Congratulations. Oh, another homeowner in America.
Does this mean I'm a contributing member of society now?
Don't push it, Van. I gave you a congratulations.
So let's dive into it. Let's cheese our way on in.
'Cause I'm cheesing my way back to you, Van.
You've used it already.
With a burning cheese inside.
The big news this week is some guy, Tyler Dunn, writing for Bleacher Report, came out with a scathing article about Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy, and the Packers organization, essentially alluding to the fact that the entire thing is defunct and fucked up.
Let me preface this by saying we're skipping the new this week. The new this week is the Packers. We're in the Packers section.
I thought everybody was smart enough to figure that out.
Oh, just because of my singing? It is good singing. It does inspire knowledge.
I mean, if you followed this show for more than one episode, you might have been able to glean. Well, maybe not. We're not that really succinct. We're not really that coherent.
We're in the Packers section, everybody.
So this guy, Tyler Dunn, who actually used to write for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, so he has Wisconsin ties.
Had all kinds of connects. He talked to everybody.
He puts out this article essentially ripping Rodgers, McCarthy, and the Packers organization a new asshole.
Well, hold on here. Hold on. Okay, go ahead. Finish and I'll rebut.
Can I summarize the article for you?
In how many words?
A handful.
All right, go ahead.
Tyler Dunn says, Rodgers is a crybaby. McCarthy took credit for Rodgers' ability. Murphy didn't do anything about it.
I read it more like Mike McCarthy gets massages.
Ooh. During team meetings. Ooh.
During team meetings. Aaron Rodgers is being real sensitive because Mike McCarthy thought Alex Smith was better than him.
Yep, right.
So he held a grudge for a decade.
Yep, that seems reasonable.
I mean, in excess of a decade is what I
mean,
really mean.
People do that shit all the time, man.
And that the front office people were asleep at the wheel, or more literally during meetings. Literally falling asleep during meetings.
I did hear that Ted Thompson was falling asleep during meetings. To be fair, he apparently had some health issues.
But I mean, couldn't he just say something like, hey, having some health issues, let's keep these meetings short so I can be alert and attentive?
I mean, he could have, yeah, but he didn't.
Instead, he was like, all right, let's talk about important stuff.
The line that came out that really got me to dig into this article, he's got a quote from Mark Murphy. When Mark Murphy decided to hire Matt LaFleur as head coach of the Packers, he called Aaron Rodgers and said, don't be the problem. And apparently there was a little bit of silence at the other end and then said, don't be the problem. Which I will say, how do you know there's silence at the other end if the only two people on that conversation were Mark Murphy and Aaron Rodgers? Where's this Tyler Dunn guy making this shit up from? I don't know.
Who did he talk to?
Reading the article, he apparently relied heavily on Ryan Grant, Greg Jennings, and Jermichael Finley.
There's other unnamed sources.
Okay, well, here's the thing about unnamed sources. I can say whatever the fuck I want and say, unnamed source told me that Jeezy has sweaty armpits.
That is true. You don't need an unnamed source for that. Call Mrs. Jeezy or anyone who's ever met me.
This is true. He's got that slime going on.
Shh, don't tell him.
I mean, I could make up an unnamed source right now. You know who that unnamed source is?
Who's that?
Brain cell number 456. It could be literally anything in my head.
You ain't got that many brain cells. Or did you name your, sixth brain cell 456 to be ironic?
To make it sound better. This guy, he relies really heavily in his article on Ryan Grant, Greg Jennings, and Jermichael Finley, which, if you'll remember, Greg Jennings didn't have the greatest sign-off from Green Bay. I saw you lunging on that one like you wanted to.
I just was going to say they also brought in DeJuan Harris.
Oh, that guy that played for us for 4 games?
He was a Packers running back from 2012 to 2014. Can I read DeJuan Harris's quote?
Yes.
You start arguing, you start losing. When the money's bad, you argue. You start hating how somebody breathes. You start hating how somebody chews their food.
It's a marriage. But seriously, this really calls into question to me this dude's journalistic integrity.
Where specifically?
The whole thing. It's so fucking biased, the whole thing. Between A, unnamed source said, B, he says that this was a large cancer throughout the locker room, talking about how defunct the Packers organization is. How many times did he say anything good about it? The article is What Happened in Green Bay. And it really should be titled Shitty Things That Happened in Green Bay.
Let me just ask you this. Separate of this article, if you and I were sitting on a bar stool enjoying a beer each and...
not one beer between
Not one
us.
beer. We're not that cheap here at Cheesy Podcast.
And if we are, we can always just write it off at taxes at the end of the year.
Business expense.
We'd like to itemize our taxes.
Brainstorming materials.
75 cents.
Why is the beer so cheap? We have to share one beer and it's a PBR.
That's right.
Here's the real question. You and I sitting at a bar, beer apiece, huddled over the beer, perched on a bar stool, and I say, Van, do you think Aaron Rodgers is a little sensitive? What would you say to that?
I would say people are hyper analyzing like every aspect of dude's life. He's been under the spotlight for years now. Like, well, Danica Patrick this and Olivia Munn that, and he doesn't talk to his family. He might be gay. Who gives a fuck? I want him to play football, throw touchdowns. He's under such tight scrutiny that is he sensitive? I don't know. Maybe not. All I know is that apparently whenever he fucks Danica Patrick, he loses the game. So that's that. That's all I know from what I've been reading.
Give me a straight answer here, yes or no. Is Aaron Rodgers a little sensitive?
I think he's a perfectionist.
My biggest flaw is that I care too much. I just care too much. Don't care too much at me, Van. I need a yes or a no here. Is Aaron Rodgers, in your estimation, at this time, a little bit sensitive?
No.
No. No, you don't think he's sensitive?
Contrary to what this Tyler Dunn pundit will tell you, no. I think he's a perfectionist that holds everybody to a high standard, and when they don't, they hear about it. Now, I can't pretend to know about the inner workings of the relationship between Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. There's only two people that know that, Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. This guy relies in his article heavily on Greg Jennings. Greg Jennings and Aaron Rodgers didn't get along towards the end of it. They had a falling out. Greg Jennings did not leave the Packers on good terms. Why would he be like, yeah, Aaron, great guy, love him? Why would he say that? This article, I will say, is 75% this guy quoting Greg Jennings and Greg Jennings saying, he's a sensitive ass bitch.
Look, man, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think Aaron Rodgers is a little bit sensitive. I love Aaron Rodgers. I think he's the man. If there's any chance he wins another ring, he will go down, I think, as the greatest of all time, even though he has significantly fewer rings. Because it'll mean that he had a Super Bowl in his true prime and another Super Bowl where he willed a team forward. Incredible player. Is he sensitive? Yes. Now, second question. Is Mike McCarthy, in your estimation, someone with whom you could become very frustrated by their play calling?
Is that a serious question?
I already know the answer because I've heard the cursing.
First down, you know what it is? Jeezy, you know what it is, first down?
No.
Rush, you know what it is, second down?
No.
Rush, you know what it is, third down?
No.
Deep bomb, incomplete. You know what it is, fourth down?
Punt.
Repeat for 60 fucking minutes for 13 fucking years.
Let me just recap what we've discovered. In our side investigation, away from this article for a moment, is Aaron Rodgers perhaps a little bit sensitive? The jury is out, but the door is open, we'll say.
According to Greg Jennings, he's an ultra-sensitive source of toxicity.
Now, is Mike McCarthy a frustrating play caller? Yes. 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 Is Aaron Rodgers one of the greatest and most dynamic quarterbacks of all time?
Yes.
Yes. Does that sound like an ultra frustrating situation?
Yes, it does.
Even if my best friend and I were working on a project and turns out he's one of the greatest of all times at this thing we're working on and I'm only okay, I bet you that friend gets really frustrated working on it. And it's just like, hey man, maybe we should do like different stuff together. Maybe we should be friends and not do this together.
We should play checkers instead or something.
So all I'm saying is the severity of this, I think, may be exaggerated. I agree. The sources may be biased, but all of the ingredients are there for this recipe to work out.
I don't disagree that Aaron Rodgers is probably incredibly frustrated with Mike McCarthy's play calling. But do you know how I know that this article is a bunch of bullshit?
Where?
It's not in the article. It's the fact that Colin Cowherd brought this dude on his show, the writer, Tyler Dunn, starts the show with fanfare, a fucking 6-foot-tall trophy, and it has 2019 Journalist of the Year on it.
Oh, my God.
And he's clapping and applauding this dude like, it's a hard story to write. I know it's really tough to write. I'm so glad someone finally did this. That's how I know it's bullshit. If somebody does something that Colin Cowherd agrees with, bullshit.
Here's the section of this article that I want to talk about. I think is one of the meatiest, juiciest pieces, and it's just in passing. I'm going to read you the quote here. Realizing early on that his days in Green Bay were numbered, McCarthy would not rip Rodgers publicly, not even as fans lambasted him for failing to feed dangerous running back Aaron Jones, while Rodgers simultaneously audibled out of runs. That tendency to audible out of runs is just about the only issue Ryan Grant, ever had with Rodgers as a teammate. That wasn't a problem in 2011. It was in 2018. I can't tell you how many times I sat on the couch and said, oh my God, if they don't figure out that they have one of the most dangerous running backs in the game right now and start feeding him, Mike McCarthy's got to go. And then to read this article where it says, hey man, Aaron just likes to, he likes to audible do his own thing, just audible out of the runs whenever more or less he feels like it, and know that significantly reduced the number of run plays. That's a big knock on Aaron here. I'm not saying that it's necessarily only his responsibility, because obviously if he's not trusting the calls of McCarthy, that whole dynamic plays into it. But
here's a question, though.
Go ahead.
Your boss says, hey, Jeezy, do this thing XYZ. And you go, well, fuck, I can get way better results doing this thing ABC. If you're successful, your boss says, great job, Jeezy. Go get him. You did a great job. If you're unsuccessful, your boss is like, what the fuck, Jeezy? Why didn't you listen to me?
That's exactly right. That's the risk you take when you don't follow directions and you improvise.
This is a life lesson from the Cheesy podcast right now.
Maybe it is. But I'm just saying, somebody's got to take this responsibility. If this is true, if Aaron is audibling out of running plays, to me, that's...
are you going to get him in trouble?
I'm going to use one of my least favorite lines. In my heart, I know that Aaron wants to do the best for the team, but it's deeply troubling.
You fucking grandma. In my heart, I know.
Oh, I hate in my heart. That line I hate so much.
I'm just saying, what does held responsible mean? Are you going to cut Aaron Rodgers? Are you going to take his playing time away? You're not going to do either of those things because he's the greatest quarterback of all time. If you listen to any one of his post-game conferences, he says, yeah, I needed to play better. I missed some routes. I didn't make the right decision there. A couple of the guys ran the wrong routes, whatever else. It's not like he took and lined these guys up like a fucking monster truck contest trying to jump over them, but instead said, fuck it, and just fucking floored the bus and just ran them all over.
At the end of it, he's got to be held accountable.
What does that mean?
That's what I'm getting ready to say. I'm getting ready to tell you. I think benching him would be warranted.
Okay, can you imagine the outrage if you're going to bench Aaron Rodgers? How long? Like, what is an appropriate punishment? Is throwing one game of a 16-game season, is that... You know what? It would be fine. It would be okay. You could bench Aaron Rodgers if there was anything with a pulse behind him at quarterback.
If I'm trying to run the show here... If I'm the coach, it has to be a give and take. And if it becomes a take and take from the quarterback, what do? I mean, you're a person manager, so you have to find a way to manage it. Now, I'm not saying benching is the best option, but it's one of your options.
Do you find him? In my life, I found those are the two things that incentivize people to either do something or not do something. Money or losing privileges. So, all right, well, if you continue to disobey the play calls, you're cut. You lose $5,000 for every play call. What is it?
Anytime you're at that point with the leader of your team, you have to start thinking that you're doing something wrong. Mike McCarthy has to know or think that he's doing something wrong.
He should have, but here he was. Did you listen to one of his post-game conferences too? He was incoherent. He had no idea. He never once, didn't compete in all three phases of the game today. Gotta be better. We're going to go back and practice. It's got to be better. That was every post-game conference every time.
Mike McCarthy never impressed me from just a straight, understand the game perspective. Does he understand that you have to get 10 yards to get a first down and you have to go in the big rectangles at the end of the field to score points?
Maybe.
I mean, probably he's got that. Like, what's he do at practice? All right, Aaron, we're got a couple guys out here. We're going to have you just...
Yeah, you do that. I'm going to go bomb over to Pizza Hut real quick.
The actual article says that Mike sneaking massage therapists up the back way to his office so he can get massages while he misses practice, misses meetings.
I heard that, and I thought, this sounds a little bit Robert Crafty to me.
It does. I mean, Mike McCarthy, I'm sure, did not do that, I hope, but...
But then the article goes on to say, well, was this something fabricated by Aaron Rodgers to try and trash talk his coach? It's like, what the fuck? Is this 16-year-old gossip girl like, well, Billy Fishkin said that he liked Janet, but Janet didn't like Billy Fishkin, so I told him that Janet was pregnant.
Here's the actual quote. One player had the same massage therapist, and she let it slip that McCarthy would sneak her up a back stairway to his office while the rest of the team prepared for that week's opponent. Rodgers, in particular, was not thrilled.
I mean, if I wouldn't be thrilled either, what the fuck? That's not like a profound revelation. I'd be pissed if my coach was getting massages when we're supposed to be practicing for a game too. I'd be pissed. He writes that line like Aaron Rodgers is so terrible for being upset about it.
There's one other part in here that gave me pause just a little bit later in that paragraph. Back issues are common amongst all football coaches. I was like... Back issues are common among all humans.
Jeezy, my back is fucked up right now, currently.
That's what I'm talking about.
My back currently hurts. It's been hurting for 3 days.
I was like, why write that? I mean, I could use a massage any day. Every day, maybe.
Do you know what? You know what's going to happen when I get out of this chair when we're done recording?
What's that?
I'm going to go, because my back fucking hurts. Again, this isn't a revelation. This guy's writing like these things are revelations. It's so profound.
That line is the single one, honestly, that gave me the most pause. Back issues are common amongst all football coaches. You mean all humans ever? We have inappropriately built bodies for walking the way that we do for whatever reason. We're ill-equipped for standing or sitting for long periods of time.
To summarize the article, Aaron Rodgers is a little sensitive, not a good leader. McCarthy is taking all the credit from Rodgers' talent. Can you agree with that? That's what this article says?
Plus that some of the other leadership parts of the team are a little dysfunctional.
Now, I will ask you a question.
Go ahead.
If Aaron Rodgers is such a terrible leader, why would Jordy Nelson say that he would come out of retirement immediately if Aaron Rodgers asked him to play? If he was that shitty of a dude and that bad of a leader and that if he was that much of a cancer and a toxic personality in the locker room, this guy that's played with him for 10 years probably knows him better than anybody. Why would he be like, yeah, I'll come back and play if he wants me to? Yeah, sure.
I mean, just think about it this way, man. There are plenty of shitty people out there. Some people that I've really disliked over the years. And all of those people had friends. All of them. Just because you're a shitty person, and that, look, I'm not calling Aaron Rodgers a shitty person, but I'm just saying that your argument doesn't hold a lot of water here. There's a lot of people out there I don't like, and all of them have friends.
James Jones, Devontae Adams, Clinton Dix, Terron Williams, John Kuhn, Casey Hayward, Jermaine Whitehead, Ryan Grant, Leroy Butler, Jaron Elliott. These are all either current or ex-Packer teammates of Aaron Rodgers that are like...
Those are all big names except Jermaine Whitehead. I don't know who that is.
He was some special teams, dude.
Okay.
They're all like, yeah, Aaron Rodgers, great guy. Love him. You know who the only one trash talking him in this entire article is the writer and Craig Jennings.
Ryan Grant puts out some, I mean, he's not trashing him exactly, but he asks some big questions. That running thing, for instance, is really important, and Ryan Grant would know.
And here, the article specifically states that in 2012, the Packers were playing a game against the 49ers. Some guy on the defense went up to Jennings and said, hey, man, why are you running so many short routes? And he says, you know how it is, contract year. And apparently, according to Greg Jennings, Rodgers stepped in and said, you guys should get him at the end of the year. And Jennings got all butthurt, and he said, I don't think it realizes the impact he had on me.
I mean, that is an example of being kind of a shitty person, though.
It is. I would agree if it happened. But the only person that can tell me it happened is Greg Jennings. And Greg Jennings is butthurt about leaving Green Bay as it was. So is Greg Jennings going to be a guy to make anything up he wants to? Maybe. I don't know.
I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. Aaron Rodgers has gotten what he's wanted. Mike McCarthy is gone.
I mean, when I read all these words from Greg Jennings, he makes it seem like Aaron Rodgers is a fucking tyrant in the locker room.
I don't believe it either. After reading this, my synopsis would be this. Aaron Rodgers is a little bit sensitive. I think that sensitivity is what drives him to be so good. Like, they cite the fact that he was not McCarthy's first choice when he was out in San Francisco that Alex Smith was at. But honestly, playing with that chip on his shoulder may have made Aaron Rodgers the better quarterback after.
I mean, same thing, too, with is he going to be the next Brett Favre? I took it being compared to Brett Favre, so fuck it.
Exactly. There's two options. Obviously, you can meet expectations. So there's three. Meet expectations, do worse, or do better. And I think having a chip on your shoulder always makes you do better.
I agree.
So what I'm saying here is I think there was good chemistry with Mike and Aaron at one time. And Aaron may have had a chip on his shoulder, but having a chip on your shoulder is not the same thing as being resentful of someone.
Correct.
I think all that stuff is good. That's the right kind of relationship. What I think I read into here is what we kind of also just saw on the field. I think Mike got soft. The team didn't stay sharp. And overall, they suffered. They didn't perform as well as they were. I mean, you and I had these discussions. The Packers, for the first time in a long time, were playing worse than the sum of their parts. And when I think about that, that is whoever has these leadership roles is not getting everything they can out of everyone's talent. That comes down to the leadership on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, both coaching and the leaders in the locker room. So they're both to blame, in my opinion. Obviously, Mike is the manager of the people and the manager of the scheme, so he carries the brunt of it. But that's what happened. They got soft. And when you get soft and you're not winning, it's easy to get mad. I think this is more of an argument than a blood feud. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Everything that both of them had said about it is like, no, we talk to each other a lot. We hug each other a lot. We say I love you to each other a lot. These are serious things I've heard from Aaron Rodgers. I've read that they didn't hate each other.
Right. I think that's right. So,
it just wasn't working anymore. All right. You gave your summary of the article.
Yep.
My summary is a little different. I would agree that Aaron Rodgers is probably a little sensitive.
Could you say that again? I couldn't quite hear that.
I said a little sensitive.
All right, fine.
Mike McCarthy got lazy. He was on the bus on Easy Street and never got off.
Yep, absolutely.
But
what?
I have lost respect for Greg Jennings.
So let me get this straight. Your recap is just repeating what I said, except you're bad at Greg Jennings.
And this Tyler Dunn guy is a shitty journalist. Seriously.
No, but you just did this to me. Hey, are you done with your synopsis? Here, let me tell you mine. Same as yours. Except I'm really mad at Greg Jennings, and the guy who wrote this is a really bad writer.
That's accurate. It's hard for me to read this as a Packers fan and not have a defensive bias.
Look, man, I got defensive too. But the thing for me is that I took everything about Rodgers with a grain of salt, but I took a lot of the things with McCarthy as face up because I had a lot of suspicions about what was going on during meetings, what was going on the practice field. For a bunch of people who professionally play a sport, they did not seem to be as sharp as they should be.
Yeah.
We're talking about grown-ass men who get paid lots of money to play a sport. But these people are not playing to the level that they could have been. That team was not even playing at the sum of its parts.
I have one last thing to say.
Go ahead.
I keep coming back to the sources this guy cites in the article. He's got a butthurt ex-player that he names. He's got Ryan Grant, who's probably the most fair person. He's probably actually got it about right. Ryan Grant does.
Right.
Jermichael Finley, a little butthurt, but if you'll remember, he's the one that tried cashing in on an insurance policy from breaking his neck or whatever it was. Something stupid. He had a little butthurt leaving Green Bay too. But everything else, he says, unnamed source this, unnamed source that. But literally everybody who's playing with him right now and who has played with him recently is like, no, that's ridiculous. He's a great guy. Great guy. I just don't take a lot of what this article says to be responsible journalism. I think this guy is trying to make a name for himself. You know, it seems like this guy is just kind of saying whatever he wants to make himself relevant, this Tyler Dunn guy. When you overuse the unnamed source, ex-teammate, without specifically calling somebody out, you lose credibility. So I have a hard time believing it's as bad as it is based on reading this guy's article. I think this guy stirred the pot for sure. And you know what? What's probably going to happen? That chip on Aaron Rodgers' shoulder just got bigger. So watch out, bitches.
You're right that the journalism here is not, this is not Pulitzer Prize winning work here. Is Pulitzer Prize the right? That's journalism?
Pulitzer Prize, I think, was books.
Books. What's journalism?
Not what we're doing. He receives 0 cheeses on the cheesy scale. Can we start our own rating scale?
What's the highest rating?
Well, we're deciding right now. How many cheeses is
4 cheeses. When you go and you order a pizza and you get that 4 cheese pizza.
On the cheesy scale from 0 to 4 cheeses, it gets 0 cheeses.
I will give it half cheese, half tomato on crust.
What?
If I was ordering a pizza, it would be a half cheese pizza. The other half would just be red sauce on pizza crust.
So you're giving him a half pizza.
A half cheese.
I feel like after reading this, he owes me cheese.
The thing about it is if I give him half a slice of cheese, that's just a small whole slice of cheese.
That's reasonable, yeah.
So it's got to be, I think, a pizza. I think that's the only way I can describe it.
It's like when you're on Domino's, you're like making your pizza order, and you're picking it, and they put the virtual sausage on it and the virtual pepperoni, except you say cheese, and on the other side you want nothing.
Nothing. It's just red sauce. It's a very disappointing cheese pizza.
We'll see what happens here. I think the outcome of this is, I'm sure there's truth to some of it. I don't believe the severity that this guy paints it with. And if nothing else, I think Aaron Rodgers has a bigger chip on his shoulder. It only makes him better. And Colin Cowherd agrees with him, so fuck him.
Well, the last thing I'll say is Aaron Rodgers, the $200 million man, at the end of this, he's got to carry some responsibility forward, and we got to see a turnaround. If it's not next year, it's got to be the year after, but that is the absolute limit.
Yes.
That's all I have to say in conclusion about the whole deal. So anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in to Gettin Cheezy with Van and Jeezy.
I'm Van.
And I'm Jeezy.
Once again, make sure to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, cheesypodcast.com, Google Play Music. I think that's everything.
I think that is everything. You got Spotify already.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, player, that's nice.
We'll catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.